All right, and I will share my screen as well so they can see what we're talking about. So here's what I want to take you in the next little while. I want to talk about really team service management. They can go deep in operations. It can go anywhere in your organization. And that's one thing that I really have enjoyed in my years being at Atlassian is the way our direction is a different way in the market. I know a lot of the other vendors, great things in those vendors. I think the future is a lot of things that we're seeing that those who've been using Jira for years, you already know this. And also I want to talk about where this lands in our cloud platform. But before I do that, I really want to spend a few minutes talking about really digital transformation. And that's one beautiful thing of being at Atlassian. I see it day in, day out in the conversations that we have. It's a reality because sometimes it can kind of be a buzzword of what's going on in that, but I see practical ways that teams are working and changing what they deliver to internal teams or externally or products or services in government agencies. I've worked a lot with government agencies, especially in the US. So I want to talk about some of those principles and key things as this journey is happening. I think for so many organizations, and by the way, it's so good to be back in person, but as we went through the pandemic, as organizations shifted, like how in the world do we work? How do we support our parts of the organization outside, our vendors, our partners? That world changed significantly, really causing a lot of orgs to step back and say, how do we adapt? How do we evolve? That journey has started for many that maybe it was there and accelerated. Others, it really transformed the way they think about things. And so I want to talk about that. One of the vendors, one of the analyst groups, always reading out there and just learning from different organizations. One of those is for Forrester. Forrester publishes some phenomenal research. And you may have heard of their ESM report. I'm going to talk about that. But it's not just about, well, how do I take service management and give it to this group? It looks holistically across the delivery of a capability in an organization. And so what I want to do is bring some of those insights before I'll get into looking at Atlassian Cloud, what we're doing in service management. I'll walk you through some use cases. I don't get it oftentimes when I come to speak to a group, show you the product and its functioning. So we've got some fantastic things set up, but let's look at this here and some of these things. So what did Forrester learn is this journey of theirs goes back 4 or 5 years when they saw a change in the way that IT and businesses function. And one of the things that was inside there is the knowledge worker. David Drucker, the publishing that he looked at, I think it was back in the 1960s, and he said, the worker from that age, as we moved into the technology and the age that we are in now, the knowledge worker is the prominent today. And you think about a lot of us, we're there. We use knowledge in our day-to-day job and the way we work. And that has significantly changed the landscape. A couple of things that they found in here, if we consider just the day-to-day working of a knowledge worker, think about the delivery of something in the organization. There's process here, there's dashboards, there's workflow. There's so many different components that fit together to deliver some sort of capability, and you're somewhere along there. There are different parts of the organization that tie into the delivery of that. Whether we've mapped it out or not, there is a flow of work, probably a value stream, and it's sometimes connected, sometimes disconnected. And then if we look on the other side of that and we think, what is that experience like for the employees that play a critical role of that? What is it like for our partners, our suppliers, our contractors? And it's, stepping back and starting to look at that. One thing I've enjoyed in my years of consulting, and I know Highway 3 does as well, is building the big picture, looking at how does that fit together? Maybe just one value stream. I went to Agile Northwest, one of the best Agile conferences, and coming from the ITSM world, this was 4 years ago, an eye-opener. And one of the gentlemen from IBM stood up and he was talking about value stream mapping within their organization. And this was before Miro really took off. They had a map going all the way around the room. They spent over a week on this. Some of the critical things in what they deliver: logistics teams, development teams, support teams. And someone that wouldn't participate, just busy, didn't have the time. And there was all of these lines coming in, and he walks through and says, well, what's that right there? Well, it was where the bottleneck where he was responsible for. So it was an interesting conversation. But the value of what that did was just bringing the focus of that. And so what Forrester did in their research as they went through this was well, first of all, also the black box that sits over this for someone as a leadership, what's going on? Where is it going on? How do we understand? How do I connect? Why is this delayed? Forrester found some really interesting insights in here. I think there's definitely, we've all experienced this, the diminished knowledge worker and the productivity, the frustration, because I've got to pivot across 3 or 4 tools, or they're just not integrated. Subpar knowledge worker experience across that. One of the ones that I've seen a lot is just the lengthy delay that I've even with a good integration, it's gone over. I'm waiting on that team. And I'm speaking about this being technology. Really, the greatest challenge is ways of working practices. That is really more of a challenge than the technology in itself. And so in the report, and there's a lot behind this, I won't dive as deep as I'd like to. I think the last thing is that alignment for what's going on and the outcomes. Is there value actually coming out of this work and connecting that? So ESM and the way that Forrester defines it, we really value it because it looks holistically. You'll hear some in space, well, ESM is just add your HR facility teams, add your other teams, and you have ESM. And one thing, if you read the report that Forrester has on ESM Wave and that, they look holistically, they look across service thinking and say, okay, there's a catalog and domain expertise that are well beyond IT, including development teams. What does that workflow delivery of that look like? From someone has an idea in the organization, how do they raise that up to, well, we're gonna have to bring in a contractor, we're gonna build something here, we're gonna ship a new capability because this was all paper-based before, now it's going to be a digital experience. And that's the fun one, like the state of Colorado, talking to some, they've gone to Atlassian Cloud, and just hearing the number of paper-based things that were done that were disconnected that we're now being able to connect together because of the digital delivery of what their teams are building in Jira software. So that's ESM from Forrester's definition. If we look below that, how they characterize this, which we have been seeing for quite a while, this evolution into service management, looking bigger picture, it's something that happens over time. One thing I love about ITIL 4, and when ITIL, we hadn't seen an update in 9 years, 10 years. And when they originally approached us to write a guide, we were going to write a publication saying ITIL is dead, long live ITIL, all of that. But when we looked into it, like they embraced agile, DevOps, lean thinking. They brought in some of the best thinkers out there. And they said, what are the key guiding principles of an organization? And every organization has them, but one of the things they said in there is start where you are. The journey is, these are all the challenges. We're going to start here and we're going to build on that and learn from it. They also embrace continuous learning and from the improvement kata that's very common out there. And so we can learn and evolve and adapt as we go. The other part is the workflow management across the enterprise. Now, as I said, that example of IBM or Intel, and I've seen this in other organizations, and even in ITIL 4, it's called Create, Deliver, Support, not exciting name of one of the pathways, but in there is, how do I take service management, my practices today, and move them over and evolve them, but I can take the value stream path for a portion of my work that my teams connect on. How do I map that out? And so that's what workflow management oftentimes starts to really connect is, how do I connect these 3 or 4 teams in the work they're doing and start to find improvements overall in what we're doing in that. Ultimately, it's a service is delivered in an organization. If there's someone in the org sitting there working on something that ultimately is touched by someone in the organization, possibly externally, if we work with others, outside, that is something that has a requestable component to it. Of those requestable components, is there ease of access to it? Or is it pretty much email? We see that a lot. Email is not going away. We found great efficiencies. So, the ease of access in there, is it there? Obviously, portal is a key part, but what Atlassian is really embracing right now that we're seeing is omni-channel support is really, really critical and key. I'll talk a little bit about that, what we're bringing from a technology standpoint, but I think it's organizationally stepping back and saying, what are the channels we will support? How do we optimize them? What's needed around that? So some way of integrated portals is a key thing. I think that's the immediate part of it for the knowledge worker. Can I get to it fast? Because our day-to-day lives, we go to I'd say Yahoo, but not anymore, Google, or, whatever that source, I'm going to go and find those answers because I need that information to make a decision or whatever. The other part of that is knowledge management across the spectrum. There are different knowledge components. How do I not only bring that in to make it a part of this service management strategy, but also how do I apply automation? It's looking at there's 20 touch points in this ticket. Could I bring 3 areas of automation, maybe doing a lookup of this data, or maybe there's certain conditions met. I'm going to go ahead and move this to another team automatically. Those 3 touch points might save me so many work hours. And so it's inspecting and starting to bring, where do I bring automation? And then finally, analytics. Being able to, that black box that's set over the top, the leaders like, what's going on? That's really key today. And many of you have reporting and analytics. So that's another key part of it, but it's looking across that. So I'm continually learning and asking 30-day retro, what are we going to do to adapt in the next 90 days as we look out? So in there's a lot more behind this, but these are some of the key areas. One of the things they did find as they went through, and they do a lot of in-depth study of customers, they looked at 80% were already embracing a service management strategy that spanned across the organization. And in there, 50% of those workloads were not IT. That's pretty significant. So I'm going to talk to you about the way that Atlassian is embracing this around team-centric service management, or in your organizations, your teams, how we might be able to do that, and really transforming that work of an organization. Being able to, let me hide my video up here. Stand by one. There we go. Okay, cool. That way you can see the top. So if we think about that, whether it's an IT support part of your organization, deep in operations, your what used to be the NOC and now is maybe spread apart across parts of the organization, wherever that is, that service team, how do we bring things that help them efficiency, fast time to resolution or fulfillment, shifting left, meaning I'm going to get closer to my business users, what's going on in the business side, and then much more responsive to those. Most traditional service management tools that I know this well, when I was consulting, is you need a longer runway to turn that ship that you use for service management. In this, and I use the example of Box in the Bay Area. We were doing interviews after the pandemic, and we were working remotely, and we were interviewing customers. And the Box team was really fascinating because they pivoted overnight, and they had another tool previously. They stood up a centralized service desk because all employees were going home to work from home. They needed one service desk with a portal, being able to come in and what kind of requests you need from HR, what do you need from IT? And it was a one-stop shop. They did it in literally a day, just coming into the weekend. So by Monday, when the announcement went out, the link was there saying, if you need anything from us, one place for you to go. In the interview, they said, there's no way with the previous ITSM tool we had, it would have taken us a month plus to set up and make that pivot. In this day and age, we need the ability to be able to adapt quickly. We call it agility. It's a fundamental of what Atlassian's building in around cloud platform. Being able to adapt, and team autonomy is something I'll talk about. That is a really key characteristic. So I'm going to pivot now into kind of an Atlassian viewpoint. I could spend quite a bit of time on the research there because there's just some really fascinating things that kind of look at organizationally. Where do we start? What do we pivot towards? And I'm glad to take questions on that when we come back. I'm going to kind of give you an idea of where I'm going to cover in when I go look at the product and the demo. But I also want to talk about the fundamentals in the way that we view the service management market. It's very different in many ways. First of all, our mission, if you look up our mission, it's always resonated with me, is that we believe behind every accomplishment in an organization is a team. It's not just an individual, it is multiple people coming together to accomplish whatever that is. And that is about, well, how do we make that team function and work better? But we also know that teamwork, it's messy, it's challenging, collaboration is difficult. So how do we help teams and organizations that? And I hear this all the time, the values that we have inside of Atlassian, we live those. And in one of the product teams I was with in Sydney recently, we stopped and they said, but what about the way this team would do it? We were just going through some recent interviews. They're asking those kinds of questions, and I think it's really key to that. Now, when it comes to that, we think about delivery of a service across a spectrum here where someone's involved in planning. Let's say we're going to move this capability, so much our workloads have moved to the cloud. So we had some sort of on-prem service. We're going to move it to cloud. So it's going to involve a vendor, but we're going to have to own that, set it up. And so there's these things are going on. Whatever it is that we're planning, we're going through service development as a team. This is probably involving business functions, software development teams. It depends on the organization. My whole point on this is we look across the spectrum of different teams intersecting with what's going on. Ultimately, we want to make sure what we're going to ship out there, whatever version 1 is valuable to the business, that it's meeting their needs and lining up on that. The other part of this are some key elements. So we would start, first of all, normally, what do we need for technology, right? Well, one of the things as we inspect across these teams, let's take the service operations team that's in the middle. Usually it's like someone's throwing over the wall. They're doing this release. Hope you're ready. Read the guide. Here you go. And things have gotten much better. And I kind of joke about that, but I've come across that a lot. So inside of that service operations team, when we think about them, first thing we ask is, who are the people? How do they work? I'm going to point to several resources. You'll see a lot published from Atlassian on this, and we are actually investing in ways of working labs team within Atlassian. That's one of the first things we ask, because really at the end of the day, take technology out of it. A lot of the challenges we have is how do we work, within teams and organizations. The second part is really with the people, and this is the part we spend a lot of time on. It used to be just process. I tell it, we moved from process a long time ago. It is, what is the practice, the way of working in an organization to respond to an incident, to manage an infrastructure change, to support the business in facilities or operations requests? What is the practice? There's process in there. What are the things that you're doing that might work really well, that might be a lot of friction? So practice is a key part of that we should stop and inspect across whatever it is that we're mapping out. And so that's that's one thing that we ask a lot lately in just working with customers. The next thing is agility, team structure. And I'll reference another, Gartner has some great research on this. Gartner has found, and it's in their future of ITSM, and this report is published out there if you look for it. They found, this is a couple of years ago, and then last year's still has the same thing. The group level support, like level 1, level 2, level 3, those are going away. They call it end level support, meaning cloud and collaboration because of chat tools and just different ways coming in. What's happening is we're starting to flatten that model. And so that means what we normally have, like I have a tier 3 team that their expertise is here, and we're only going to escalate when we get to that team. And it goes to that. Well, what we're finding is we don't have to do that. We can actually bring them in sooner, get them involved, and either solve what we need or an outage or deliver on the capability sooner or involve them in the planning. The agility or the team structure is starting to change. You may already see this in your organizations. And so there's a great book out there, one of my favorites. It's written for software teams, but it is applicable to service management. It's called Team Topologies. Gene Kim's group has written it. And it looks at, if you're realigning an organization, what would be the realignment for that? And they look at software, and I see a lot of the service management functions falling right in line with that. So that's the third element. And then the fourth element is, do I have the right tools and capability that fit these teams? Are they adaptable to that? And I'm going to spend a lot of time on that, but I want to emphasize these other ones because those 4 elements really are the elements in the facets that I want to look at for the teams involved in service management. Now, underpinning this, what has Atlassian done? Well, first of all, outside in the industry, ITIL 4 is well worth looking at. There is so much good, and the adoption is increasing. Organizations that are starting, maybe they were ITIL V2, they started to align to service. There's some really good things in there that are, at least as a starting reference point, saying, if we're going to realign to practice and we're ultimately looking at what's the value we want to ship, they have guidance on value streams. How could I start to take and bring some of the efficiency? So well worth looking at. The other one I find now is IT for IT. I see that as the governance, the management governance framework, and those two might very well fit together. There's some similarities and shared ideas there. DevOps, They influence the rewrite of ITIL. And also just those teams are oftentimes have gained traction that we now find SRE teams, DevOps teams that are focused on continuous delivery. And culturally, it's a great thing for the organization. Now, what is Atlassian doing? Well, one that I advocate for, if you haven't seen the Atlassian team playbook, it's phenomenal. I think there's 80 plus plays in there today. What we did, when I joined, we're 1,400 employees. Today, we are now at 12,000 employees. Before the pandemic, I think we're 5,000. So it's really, really fast growing. And they're asking, okay, we're a fast growing organization. How do we take the qualities of high performing teams and help other teams maybe to bring practices in? So there's a health check in there. I can go run a health check as a service team or a project team. And everyone answers. I did one a while ago with our team, and it's actually really interesting where we landed. Like, we should go work on this facet. Well, which place do we go run? Maybe it's on how to, better partner with some of other parts of the organization, how to run a retrospective, a blameless retrospective. So there are plays that we ship internally, and that list is growing. The other thing that I'm really excited about, you'll start seeing a lot more. We have a team now within Atlassian that's studying the science of the way that teams work. The first group right now, Dom Price, I don't know if you've ever, he's a lot of fun to hear speak. He's all about looking at the way organizations work today. They're looking at the science of teams, culturally, practices, and we are starting to publish a lot more around this, including we will be putting up pretty soon access to a lot of documents that we are using internally. We're going to be sharing those with our partners as well as our customers. And so that way you'll get access to that. You'll see a lot of webinars on it. Right now they're focused on a work management area. We have a group that will be a service management and agile at scale. So we have groups that are looking across that. We call it our labs group. And I'm really exciting because we're very passionate around just not products, but also the way that teams work. And then finally, our products built on the Atlassian cloud platform. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. We bring products that easily for a team to adapt. And so that's where I'll spend most of my time. The rest of today is focused on that. However, I will weave in some of these other parts as I go. So what I want to talk about, I'm going to start and kind of jump off into this in the Atlassian platform. If you go back 5 years ago, we had a SaaS-based product. We could spin up our products on AWS and that, but it wasn't really truly cloud. And we saw a journey ahead for cloud that we wanted to give a scalable, very, very adaptable to the needs of an organization, true cloud platform. And we architected to a fantastic microservices platform. Now it's a journey we're on. We're 5+ years in. We've got quite a ways we're going in this direction. We're building across the overall capability that we have solutions on here: Agile, DevOps, service management that I'm going to talk about today. Work management is the next exciting one that we're, for teams that are behind the scenes managing work, be able to do that, and other solutions that we'll continue to add in here. We're building an experience layer that's shared across all of this. One that you'll see quite a bit, and I'm going to talk about, is automation. No code automation, meaning that if you are at a part of a software development team and you want to automate some steps in that process and check it, or service management ticket just comes in and I want to validate and I'm going to route to the right team for whoever's available, I'm going to put automation on that. The other part of this, keep in mind, our platform we're thinking about, yes, there is an admin of this, but we're also believe in team autonomy. And so we want to be able to empower, if you want to distribute this capability out to teams that they know their way around, I potentially could empower another team to manage their own Jira environment. So really, really key part of that. The other part I'm going to get to at the very end after the demo is the exciting, we have just launched our analytics capability that we're building on it as well. It's been the missing part that we're really excited to be out there. It's in early access. It will go GA in the very near future. So with that, we're going to talk about teams and the way they work on the Atlassian platform. I'm going to focus in on Jira Service Management. I want to talk about something that we're very passionate about, is team autonomy. Being able to give a team the ability to adapt, and yet I need alignment. I need them aligned back to, these are our governance standards. These are the workflows I want them to follow. I need to track this data for that. But I want to give them some autonomy because they may very well know best. They're in the day-to-day trenches of supporting whatever they're doing. They need the adaptability. And I'll use the example. Herman Miller is an amazing company, built probably the best comfortable chairs. If you ever sat in one of their chairs and office chairs, they're great. Global company. I think they were, it was ServiceNow they were using. This is quite a few years back, and they were on a journey. They moved over to Jira Service Management, Jira Service Desk, now Jira Service Management. And when they made that journey, they said, team autonomy, wow, we could really look at a different structure in their global organization. They said, we could really look at something that's different in the way we work. And so they mapped out, I think they started with 5 support projects, workspaces inside of Jira Service Management. And they're all of their core IT capabilities there. Fast forward to today, there are about 28 support parts of their organization globally. And some of those for this core, I think the core team that's now administering it went from 5 down to 2 because these other teams have gone to do other things in the organization. They allow their logistics team, their facilities team, manage their own request catalog, manage their own, whatever they need to adapt, they're able to do that. Now they've done some enablement. It freed them up as an admin team. And that's what we mean by this is, do I give them an autonomy to be able to adapt and take the idea of centralization for IT support, for service management, it really puts a burden on a central team that is difficult to adapt. So we are putting capability in the platform at an admin level across the products that allow that to happen. And there's many things that are going on in our roadmap around this. Some things are already there today. All right, so closer look at Jira Service. Here's the highlights of what we'll see in the demo. But I will take questions before we go to the demo. So just a couple of slides here. Couple of areas. I'm going to focus on modern support and modern operations. I'll start with support and I'll talk about capabilities we find really resonate with teams. And then I'll pivot over to modern operations because on the operations side, we already have a large percentage of developers that work in Jira. We want to bring that work closely together. It's already happening. We're just going to give investment there. We've done this in this Jira Service release 3 years ago that put dev and IT teams on the same page. And we're leaning further into that. Very much team-centric in the way we think about this. I can create an environment, let's say it's a small team to a very large cross-functional team. Whatever it is, we can think about the way they work. How does that environment need to be adapted to them, but still aligning to the overall governance of the organization? We're also very much customer-focused in what we deliver because we know there's a service capability within these teams. Is it easy for someone to reach that team? Let's see what else. Oh, and then Agile, just bringing that in the way we work in the collaboration. So let me look at and highlight some of these. I'll talk about request management. That's the modern support. One of the things we've heard is a shift left. How do I get to where someone can find answers or get help very, very fast? And so we've been able to do this quite a bit. We've added quite a bit. It's going to allow us to get close to that level of level 0 support. And that's using knowledge, omni-channel, automation. And so that way, if someone comes to ask something from support, they may very well find what they want, but I know that they've asked for it. And I can then, okay, great, that was valuable. Let's enhance that. Or there was a miss here. I should go and invest in some sort of knowledge-centric support. The other side of this, we're going to learn a lot from those that are coming to us. So where should I increase my response time, my focus for the learning? And one of the practices that I am now seeing with frontline support teams is doing a 30-day retrospective, saying, all right, you're supporting this part of the organization. Let's look back. Where can we work better? A friend of mine said it was like shrinking the box. You're not going to get more resources. So we're going to shrink the box for types of tickets coming at our team. And I was going through a customer review out of the East Coast, a financial company. And what they're doing is they now know certain tickets, they can actually move them or get the other teams involved faster is pretty significant. So that's the idea behind the shrink the box. They're a learning part of the organization. Sometimes we think learning is only for operations team during an outage. No, it's for any type of service team. So here's what we're really excited about. And we announced this last year at Team. We've actually delivered on a part of this with more coming this next year. And that is something we see unified help. We already started, you'll see more of this in this coming year. Like the portal is there, the chat capability is there, we call it Assist. And we want you to be able to plug in where that channel of support is, including right now it's on public roadmap. You have other places that you may want to redirect this to. You'll be able to plug that in saying, well, this is this other application. And this virtual agent is really an intent engine. We acquired Precept, and I'll talk about in a second. That intent engine will help us in the routing of these tickets. So unified help is a really key part of that, but the portal plays a key part of that, the overall strategy. We have found in cloud, those that are email-centric organizations, we follow the inbound email channel and how many come by the portal, about 40% increase or decrease in email in most cases. Once the portal is valuable, we see a pretty significant shift there because users like, great, there's good answers here. I can find things in that. Email doesn't go away. So the portal and the platform itself, there's a lot going on around this, but the idea that teams can quickly spin up a service desk for them. Like someone comes to IT and say, hey, we're tired of the emails coming to us. We work in a spreadsheet. Can you help us out? And that's what happened to Herman Miller. It started going like wildfire across the organization, and they were empowering them. You can manage your own project, your own workflows. So they're an outside of IT part of the organization. And this is an example from, it was what we call it Armstrong City, but we're seeing a lot of city and state organizations because they're even reaching out like a 311 in the US, we call it. So I want to report something. I may very well have an externally facing capability so I can tell you this abandoned vehicles here. I got a lost pet. I mean, I've seen those use cases come up as well. So it's not just within IT. The other thing to keep in mind on the platform, and I'll show you this, AI/ML, we call it smarts. It is across the entire platform. It's used in searching, in finding information, telling you about tickets, bringing information to you. And that team is across a lot of what's going on in there and is only going to expand and further just deliver a lot of value to teams. So if you're sitting on a ticket, you're like, what's this about? Who's it involved? You'll be able to find that information very easily. The other thing that we've shipped that is really valuable, it's really just through an acquisition, building forms. Think about a data-heavy process. And you need 50, 60 elements of data to really get this moving, like a project. Well, that's a lot of Jira fields. And your Jira admin does, all right, well, hold on a second. Do we really need those fields? So we acquired, it was called Proforma, and this team was experts on, they really got their start in, where was it, out of Australia. It was bids from universities and that. How do you're putting a bid on something, and so there's a lot of data that's gathered. So they went and built this on Jira. Well, now we've shipped it in product. It is called Jira Forms. It's there. You can build better requests, easily build them because it's like Confluence. And there's 300 plus forms in there to get started. Now, here's something I saw with a customer a while ago. They had a logistics team where they needed to submit a request and they're using the form builder. But based on, there's one item in there, you give me 5 different variations of the answers, I need to send you back another form. We now support that because the automation say, great, you just answer this way, I'm going to send you back a notification and you fill out the next part of that form. So it's opening up not only an ease of capturing data that's flexible, it's opening up an interaction model that can really support complex, intake of data and requests. Another one I've seen just recently with a financial customer out of New York, they're doing all of their system builds in their own data center. They were coming through their Jira backlog. Like, well, these don't belong in the backlog because they linger. Now they've put Jira Service Management as the front door to these system builds. They come through, fill out all of the information. They go through a process, they send back some different. So it's a better way of working with the business because they were building systems and then would use them, wasted effort. Now they have all of this in place and they're seeing significant improvement in the way that they work, both between the business and the software side. Conversational ticketing is now live in the product. We acquired Help. That service has now moved into our cloud. It's there, today it's only Slack. We will have, on the back end, you can get the Teams. You will natively be able to just easily say, hey, I want to connect to this Microsoft Teams channel. I want to connect to Slack. And this one right here has been really valuable in that I immediately out of the gate, I have another omni-channel open up to me. we live in chat today. We've shifted in most organizations away from email into chat. You can now put this in a way that I'm going to show you this one in the demo in a second. And keep me honest on time here. So, okay, thank you. We acquired Precept AI last year. Phenomenal AI engine that was in the customer support and service management space. They are currently working through it. We are using it internally. I love it. I had a VPN issue the other day, and there was the AI asking me some questions. It knew some of my intents. Could even read that I was very frustrated because I had a meeting coming up. Like, it was talking to her, like, oh, it's a nice bot here. We are going to bring this, and it is just automatically going to show up in the chat capability. It's right there, not another, it's another tier or another license you need. This is just capability that we are bringing as a part of our service management offering. We're really excited about this. So that will be coming soon. That'll help in that regard. And that intent engine will actually help us in many other areas, not just the chat conversation. Behind the scenes, I said earlier, automation. If we get time, I will open one up, but this is no code, meaning that if you have someone that wants to manage some of their automation, or I need to write a rule for that, I just want to reprioritize this ticket, or I want to, maybe I'm going to create a linked issue over to the team. Your admin can do this, or your project admin. And it has some complexity to it, but it does not require any coding. It is no code. So it really allows the team to adapt quickly. And it is used both by teams on Jira software, teams in service management, teams in Jira work management.
Is this reliant on the knowledge management database?
Great question. It can interact with Confluence now. We just shipped that. So yeah, good question. I should be taking more questions as I go, shouldn't I? Any other questions? I've covered a lot. I apologize I didn't pause early. Any questions so far? Okay. Well, fire away as we're, perfect size group. If you have questions, please go ahead and let me know as we go. The other thing is service. So service management is about service. We should connect our tickets, our requests, our incidents, our changes to a service object. So what we've done in the early phases is we shipped a services layer in the product. It now connects into the asset seem-to-be capability. But what that means is I now know which team is associated with this. So maybe who's my on-call team? What's changed on this service recently? Could be a technical service, could be a business-facing service. And I will show you actually how I can connect it to my CI/CD pipeline. So now instead of being on two systems and someone has to throw a ticket over and wait, no, I'm pushing my code. I'm over here in Jenkins. It says, no, I'm gated. I'm gonna have to wait because it's a high-risk change, but I don't have to do any swivel share. So this is a key part that we will continue to build on, and it is unified into the asset seem-to-be that we provide through what's called Insight. The other part I want to show you is, so that's the request management side. Now I'm just going to spend just a second. One on for operations teams. Well, incident, that's a key part. So we acquired Insight, it was built on Jira. It is truly a next generation flexible approach to whatever data you want to manage, assets, configuration items. I have a customer recently that was going through of ATMs and what they manage around that. So logistically, maybe there's something you need to manage. You can create an object model, take that feed of data in here, and then connect that through your ticketing system. We think about it in infrastructure or in the case of assets and devices. 9/11 Museum in New York, loved listening to them. They actually, in their kiosks, as you walk around the museum, have objects in Insight, and they're able to go around and check on those, and they can create tickets and that. So just anything you need to manage, because really at the end of the day, the ticket is the verb. Okay, this is what's going on. The noun is that object I want to associate it with it. So that's a key part of it and very flexible. We have a very strong roadmap around some of the most common connectors to sources of data like AWS, Azure, all of these other vendors. Those are coming in this next year, actually going into FY or 2023.
What kind of platform skills?
Immediately, so the API is open. So I have a customer in Europe right now that's using the API, and they're connecting to a myriad of sources. We are going, I think I'm just going to go off the top of my mind. Some of these are on our public roadmap. AWS, Azure, some of the Microsoft, it used to be SCCM, but now it's, I forget the other one. So they're working through some of the top vendors that we are partnered with. And then there are vendors like Device42, phenomenal discovery cloud migration vendor out there. They are just about ready to ship their integration with Insight. So our marketplace will have other vendors as well. Or if you have a development team and you want to use our API, yep. Because this customer in Europe, they're in the car rental leasing space. They had a Snowflake database and another one, Device42 is involved, and they've just written the API there. They've created a data load coming from those sources.
So there's catalog available, what's already in.
Right now in cloud, JSON, CSV, API, and there's one our own discovery products, which
AWS and
not yet in cloud. This for data center, yes. It'll be 2023 when that will ship. But you don't have to wait. That's the beauty of the API is open. If you, but we want to have that ease of connection to those sources of data, and that's what we're working. Yes, yeah. And most of our workloads have moved to the cloud. I know the AWS part is some of the looking at the architecture has started, but I don't know where our roadmap is public, by the way. If you ever go to Atlassian Cloud, you go to platform, you can look by product, you can look what shipped, what's on the horizon, and then what's or more looking out a little bit further. One thing about Atlassian being very open, we want our customers to understand where are we going, and that way you can have ideas and plan around that. So good question. I'm glad you asked about that. Modern incident management, what we've done here, you may have heard of Opsgenie. We acquired that about 3 or 4 years ago now. That is now included and woven into the product. So we've completed phase 1 of consolidation. So all of the microservices from Opsgenie run there. We're bringing all the capability. I'll show you that in the demo in a few minutes. So that means that you can easily find the context of the incident. I can connect to the alert sources, 200 plus there, and I can escalate to the on-call team, whether it's in a video chat, Slack, Microsoft Teams. So you can swarm in a way that makes sense. And Opsgenie is behind the scenes is what's running it, but it's Jira Service Management, one product that's able to do that for all of your operations teams. Last thing I'm going to mention, I'm going to get right into the demo, and that is the CI/CD. Whoops, I clicked too quickly. This is something that's really compelling. That if you have development teams that work and they're working separately, and we've seen this a lot, where I'm pushing code and I need to know what you did because of outage oversight or for compliance. We now have a native integration with Bitbucket, Jenkins, Circle CI, Octopus, and one of the Git flavors of Git is coming. This list will expand. You can natively integrate your CI/CD engine, and based on the assessment that you configure here, you might actually approve it because it's low risk. Or no, this is high risk. I'm going to have the service owner come in and review that. For the developer, they know it's actually waiting. They don't have to swivel out. They don't have to create the ticket. And as the operations team, when the outage happens, you know what code they pushed in the last 24 hours or whatever it is. So I'm going to actually show that one. So with that, I'm going to show you a couple of use cases in the product. How much time do I have? How are we doing?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Great. Any questions so far? I've covered a lot in thinking about service management and the way organizations work, Atlassian's philosophy, what we're investing in. Okay. Grab some water here. There we go. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you an environment, and okay. So let me start here, and I have a cloud environment that I've split up, and a lot of the examples, by the way, we call it the art of the solution in our solution engineering group globally. We meet with a wide variety of customers on a weekly basis. We're always learning from them. So we've brought a lot of those examples because it's a great thing of our platform is you can configure around how do you want to work? What's that work look like? But one of the things that we've done in cloud is this your work. We are just getting started here in that we know a lot about which team you're a part of, where your work is. It could be across operations, development, human resources. I've got tickets there. So where is your work? And then obviously finding my work, like where is that ticket? What's assigned to me? What have I recently viewed? One of the things that we've done, if I come up here and click, look how many different products now that we can search across. In one search, I can come in, and this is using our AI/ML called Smarts. I'm able to search And if I want to see what's going on with email, I can quickly look across all of these products unified, just seamlessly across there. And that's what Smarts is doing. One other thing I won't be able to show you, but Smarts has been phenomenal. When you go mention someone in Confluence, when you go assign the ticket, it's automatically looking at who do you work with? What's the most probable? And the recommendations I've in the last couple of months, I've just really been amazed. Just in Confluence, like, yep, that's the person I need. I don't have to search. So we're bringing our AI ML capability on the platform to bear across all of these products to where they work seamlessly for the organization. So I'm going to focus in on Jira Service Management. I will bring a little bit of Jira software into this conversation. I've got quite a few of the different ones here in my environment. I've spun them up. They're here. Easy to set up, and I'm ready to go. So let me jump into Jira Service Management. Now, before I do that, we've set up a couple of the ones that are based on every organization is different. And I think that's the key of stepping back and saying, how do we want to work? Where are we going in the next 12 months? That makes it, that's a Herman Miller example. Another one is Sacramento County in California. That's almost a state into itself. This is right where the capital is. Their Department of Technology was on ServiceNow, and they were influenced by their software teams because what they do now, what they ship is so much about the technology services. And I lived in California for quite a few years, and just being able to now interact with the state government via digital versus just pen and paper, they've become a software organization. They moved on to Jira Service Management as their IT offering. And it's changed so much of what they do and how they work and the responsiveness. So I'm seeing this all a lot at the government level, state, local, as well as businesses. What we've done is we've configured a couple of common support scenarios. I'm going to deal with IT support first, and then I'll go into operations. And I might actually weave in a couple that are non-IT related, like HR. What we've done here, and these are going to continue to get some further expansion. We've given you templates as a starting point. And again, they're just a starting point, but this one here has some semblance of ITIL workflows. I think ITIL V3, we are working through the Pink Verify certification right now. So we're looking at Pink Verify for ITIL V4. Excited to see when that is finished here and where we land. But this gives you I had to stand up a brand new service support project for another operations teams because they're going to take this app dev team and they're going to spin them off and they're going to support all that. Well, great. I've got a great starting point to configure this environment, this workspace around the way that team would work. Or on the other side, I've got a logistics team that is there. I could do that. And so that's why we have multiple templates, and this template list will grow. We're actually investing this year on a roadmap around HR. It's probably one of the most common use cases we see. So you'll see a lot more from Atlassian around these templates. That's what we've done based on what we'll see in there. Oh, thank you so much. All right, so let's get to our example. And I'm going to go into IT support, but I want to start with who I support would be. And so I'll talk about the agent experience and some of that in a minute. I want to come over to channel, and we've already shipped omnichannel, and there's more, as I said, coming. But I want to just speak about, first of all, the portal. Now, I don't want to open up my email because my email is just, I haven't read it or caught up in the last couple of days. I will speak about it because I didn't set this up in time, and if I can find the ticket, I'll show you. If I take an inbound email, which that doesn't go away, there's an email address for this team. We actually will take some of the stuff and collapse it. So if there's like a signature line and all the other, we'll go ahead and collapse it so it's easy for the agent to see. We can actually apply automation. So if I want to look for certain keywords and I want to put it in a queue, so we can actually get smarter about email support. And when they submit by email, they get a link back to the portal. And they might go back to the portal, view the status of it, and they'll look around and say, wow, there's other things here I can use. So email is actually valuable. If you're an email-centric organization, you can start to make that pivot towards other channels that are more valuable. So what we've done is we've added a portal over all service teams. And there's quite a bit that's going to be changing around this in our roadmap right now. We're excited to bring in, you want third-party content to sit in here. There's quite a bit that will be done. That we previewed this a little bit at team, but this right here is valuable to organizations and teams. So let's say I'm having an issue with VPN. Great. I search in my day-to-day life all the time for things on Google. I'm like, where is that at? What's that answer? My 11-year-old son is asking me questions all the time. Like, I don't know. Let me Google that. And so it's the same here. Search is probably one of the most common ways to try and find. Now, what we do here is we're using a little bit of smarts in that based on it's really obscure term. And I found this when I was in the government. I was US Coast Guard Aviation. So we have acronyms for everything. So someone use an acronym, we'll remember that and we'll remember what you select. And the next time someone comes in, if they use that, these recommended items below will change. So it's going to get better about recommending what's the best answer or team to help you. In this case here, I'm just going to open a knowledge article. So knowledge can be very easily written. One of the things that we've done recently as well is you do not have to have Confluence to use this capability. We've now embedded a capability of Confluence in with Jira Service Management. So if, let's say you're migrating over into cloud and you don't use Confluence today, great, this is all here. You can create articles. You can use Confluence around Jira Service Management. Now, there's a lot of value of Confluence in an organization because it becomes the collaboration wiki and fabric of an organization. But this is something we've come in that teams use. And I've actually had a customer recently, their frontline teams that don't live in Confluence, they're going to free up those licenses and that team is just going to be using this capability. So we're putting lifecycle tracking around. So I'll show you some more of some things we're doing. But this is great. You just answered my question. I'll just go ahead and indicate that I've done it, or I know that you opened this knowledge article, so I don't even have to say yes or no. So we keep track of where knowledge articles are being used. And when analytics, when we get to that in a little while, you'll be able to see how we're actually using that, or we will use that with the upcoming analytics. So knowledge-centric support is really valuable. Most other platforms that I've worked with, they tend to be a little bit heavy in that we'll get to knowledge management. It's going to take a long time. That's all of those life cycles, articles. And what we advocate for is the knowledge is in the team. If I went back and did a retro of the service desk team, I said, give me your top 10 tickets that you find most challenging. What would you write as a knowledge article for that? One organization now does an award, a kudos. They get given an Amazon something. So they incentivize who's going to write the best knowledge article that gets the most use and deflects the most tickets. Level 1 service desk guy. I'll do that because it's going to save me time and I'm going to get a reward for that or recognition. So there are things an organization can do because level 1 sometimes can be a thankless job. So if I can deflect tickets, I can get working more valuable things. So I think this is a part of a knowledge strategy that I've seen that is really key to think about. How do I weave that into where I need this to what I call shift left? So the other thing is obviously opening a ticket. I'm going to just go ahead and open up a general here. I want to show you something with the forms. So here is the Jira form capability, meaning that it can support dynamic capability. So here, I just need general IT help. So what is it? Well, I need a device. I actually had this happen last week where my mobile phone actually got dropped and doesn't work anymore. So I needed a new one. Is it company managed? Yes. What's the phone number? Great. And can I power it on? No. So you notice how things changed as I went down through. You can easily configure it in the form builder. It's like Confluence. You just drag and drop. You put the condition. So it doesn't require a Jira admin to create this type of capability. This is the part we were really excited adding in because we had probably the easiest out of all my years in working on HP, Remedy, ServiceNow. Those are amazing catalogs of what they could do, but it takes an admin time to build those. One thing we took as a guiding principle is let's make it easy and adaptable, but powerful for an organization. And that's why the examples I've shared, they're able to scale very quickly to other teams. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and go to, let's just jump right to, I had a new employee join my team. I'm the manager for that. What's going on? What do I need to be? What do I need to do? Well, we could look at different policies around that, but here is the onboarding. I need to set up my new employee. Now, normally you'd onboard a new employee, you could have that happen automatically. I'm going to show you from the portal, if you had a complex request that needed to involve 3 to 4 teams, I can facilitate that work very easily through the Jira workflow, the automation, and the start of it in the portal. Whatever the request is, think about logistics, the teams in your organization that are across multiple teams working on something that's complex. How do we bring them together to work on that? So let's do that. Let me see who the new employees are in the database are. So this is actually coming out of Insight. And so we are going to, wow, there are a lot of people in here. So we'll go with Susan's joining. Okay. All of these are Jira fields. We could bring a form in here if we wanted to go that way. The one thing that isn't here yet that will be soon is this data is coming from Insight. Insight is our asset C2B capability. Very, very easy to figure out. So if I want that in a Jira form, that is coming. It is on our roadmap and we will release that. When they do that, that's the last little bit that we have because automation can interact with it. We can get data from Insight. So here are some Jira fields. But what I want to do is, first of all, when you're starting, that might actually trigger some things on calendars or different actions. So let's say we'll start on the Monday, the 3rd. Now, I'm actually taking part of the capability that's in request a new notebook, but I'm going to put it over here and I'm going to say, I want you to pick out of my authorized hardware library. All we're doing is we're pulling from Insight and saying, here's what's available that you can choose. Well, we need a MacBook Pro. We'll go with the 14-inch, 16-inch accessories. So we're just pulling things out of the library. You could have them actually pulling something from what's currently in inventory if you wanted. So whatever fits the requirement, you can easily adapt to that. Also, let's say I want some subscriptions set up. So we'll say I want to assign G Suite. We'll just do 3 of these and Slack. Okay, great. Now, here's where the other part comes in. I need my security team and my facilities team to be involved in this process. Before, I'd always have the ticket would come to me. I've got to go ahead and manually create that. What we're going to do is automatically go ahead and facilitate this work based on the answers of what they've said. Or let's say it's an inbound push to my system and my recruiting team says, yep, they're going to be home office and they're going to have this level of security and they are a vendor. Great, I could trigger other things. So inbound, I'm just doing it through the portal here. It could be some other channel, could be sending it to me. And automation, you're going to see in the ticket in a minute here, automation is going to take over and it's going to go ahead and facilitate this. So we'll go ahead and send this off. For those that haven't seen Jira Service Management, you could put an approval process or an approval in the process anywhere in the workflow. This one we don't in this case because we want to actually see this actually functioning. So now I'm going to go over on the agent side for just a second. And I'm going to talk about something here is queues on the left-hand side are just about what is the grouping of the types of requests and tickets that team oversees. So in this case, you'll here see region, you'll see types of tickets. It is based on what makes sense for this team. In this case, we have the ticket sitting in front of us. Great. I know it's current SLA. I know that it's automatically been assigned to Jennifer. And when Jennifer picks this up, she'll know about what's being asked for because she actually sees it's set up a new employee. And then we did a little bit of automation here. We did a lookup. Well, first of all, I did pick in the menu Susan, but I'll show you something else in a minute. Now, what it tells me about Susan is like, okay, she's solution engineering. She's a special. Oh, she's in our APAC region. Okay, great. Let me see what else about her. Let's say it's a feed coming from your HR database. Oh man, I better turn that down. Okay. Well, that we've expanded our data set. So yeah, if I go 2 levels, I'm going to look out. And that's actually, you saw what's possible of looking at that. So I'm able to quickly understand more about Susan, anything that might be assigned to her. Okay. So I'm able to look across the type of relationships. As an agent, within 1 click, I have very rich context. Let's say it's device support for Susan, or it's something about this location. I was working with a university out of Virginia just recently. They're using it for all of their building management. So as they move really critical systems and hardware around from classroom to classroom, they know where it's at, they know how they're supporting it. So whatever that object is, you're able to tell about it. And I can also look, let's say it's Susan here, I'll click on this. I can see right now there's only one for that. So let's see if there's anything for, well, Elena Grant, let's see if she has any other issues out there. So I am able to look and see, okay, for Elena Grant, because that's her manager, I can see other types of requests out there through that. So it's looking at across Jira, wherever this object is referenced in that ticket issue. This can be used in Jira software. I have an electronic automotive manufacturer in the EV market. They build some really innovative stuff. And their software teams have insight objects associated with their issues, their bugs, their stories, because that ties back over to some of the inventory and things they're tracking in service management. So all kinds of different use cases open up here, but Insight is giving me that. Now, I'm just going to show you real quick where this data comes from. I won't get time to go in this in depth. We do have some great online demos. I want to show you Insight is a very flexible schema that you create a schema of what you want to manage. Could be deep in IT, it could be buildings and facilities. Here with people, we have a schema that we created that we're able to, well, this is employee assets. We'll go here, this is fine. So this is my hardware catalog that we created. And here are the current ones that we're supporting for laptops. So I can see the one that was actually requested for her down here. And if I scroll over a ways, we've got a lot in the library now. So this is what's feeding into the ticket very easily that your admin can manage behind the scenes. I've never found this level of flexibility with some of the other vendors I've worked with. Like we asked about the integrations that we're looking at to bring to market, those will make it much easier for you to bring in and adapt, but you don't have to wait for them. You're able to use them today. So let me move this forward. We'll show you something here now, and then we'll move on to the next ticket, and then we'll move to incident and change. So one thing in this ticket is, in addition to the context, when I moved it forward, it did not do that. Why not? Or am I just being too quick? It should have kicked off. Automation is going to go ahead and send procurement, the procurement team that works in Jira Work Management. There we go. I was just being too quick. Here's actually the new laptop. It sent a ticket over to the procurement team. And this right here, if we look at this object, is now on order. So let's say your procurement team was in some other system, you could definitely create a Jira ticket that would point out to it, or they were very well have something assigned to them in Jira, maybe Jira Work Management, and they would be able to fulfill that item that they're working with, or in Jira Service Management. My whole point of that is automation is what I have to do manually previously. My workflow is just triggering where it's going to go with those different types of tasks in here, other linked issues from other teams, because here's the one for security badge interview, setting up her office in the APAC region. So that I'm facilitating work across all of these teams, and whoever's requested this, they're getting updates as it moves through its life cycle. What questions do we have about the more complex request management in Jira Service Management? Okay. I want to show you one other thing, and that is from a chat basis. So let's go back over here. And so I'm going to come back to this because I want you to see this part of it. One thing that we've shipped that's available to customers today is chat. So I'll just open this up. I won't go into the detail. You can get to Microsoft Teams behind the scenes. We'll have it natively on the screen here pretty soon. So it'll ask you what channel do you want to set up. And here we've set up Assist to work with Slack. So what does that mean? Whoops. Let's go over here. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to move this to the screen for just a second. All right, here we go. So I'm going to come up here. You could create a channel, ask IT, or better yet, you know what? Let's do something with HR. I have another channel for HR help. So this can be multiple channels here. You can have different teams because each service project can have a channel here, or you potentially could unify. So now I went to this one because I wanted you to see what's going to do within a team. There is the ability to have some knowledge articles come up. I'll go back and show you the other one for support in a second, but I want to show you this one because what it did immediately, Assist picked it up, It's not going to ask me any questions because I may put some sensitive data in here and I don't want it going in there. So what it did in this case was we just created a private ticket for you. Thanks. They're going to get a notification back. And if I go look at that ticket, I'm just going to go open it up because I have admin access. So here I might see a little more about what they've asked for. If I go over and look at the HR ticket here, you will find that there's a ticket created with the HR team. If I'd added a description, I'd put something in there about it. But it did an automatic lookup and it said, who's the employee? Hey, he's full-time, he's in the Americas, he's part of CSI, and Ryan Lee is his manager. Great, I have some context. Now I can work on this ticket. So directly from chat, and then I can come back here and I can say, okay, and back it goes. If we come back over here, I will see that update come in, should see it back in. Although, did we turn that off? We may not want the response coming back. So in this case, because it's secure, we wouldn't want that. I'm going to show you the IT side of it in a minute. So again, you have a multitude of ways you can do this, but let's go to the IT side one.
It works with Microsoft Teams?
It does. Natively today, you'll have to go behind the scenes to set that up, but we will ship very soon where you'll see in your new service desk, you'll see Slack or MS Teams. Yeah. So let me go back up to Ask IT Help. So all right, great. So now what we're going to do here is we're not going to immediately create the ticket, because if you look across your most common tickets, it's probably answered by 3 to 4 knowledge articles, like password reset, where do I go, VPN, how do I set this up? So what you can do, and this is where when Precept is online, that will actually take over for you because you don't have to do this. It will go look through your knowledge article and have a conversation with the person and say, hey, do you think this would solve it? Sorry, you're having a bad day. Right. So it'll actually facilitate a conversation. But here today, you don't have to wait for that, because I was saying, hey, take a look at this knowledge article in troubleshooting, and I can indicate, hey, that's solved it, or I still need help. Now, what it does here, if I still need help, what it's going to do is, and you would have a drop down of what are the most common types of ticket you would take by chat. It's go through your library. What we found on average, like 7 different types of requests. And here I just need to report an issue because it's VPN. Great. Off it goes. It goes and tells me that it's been created. So Assist is there and I can actually view it. And I'm an admin, so I have a little bit more here. So you can actually send in more updates. Like I forgot to mention. I can't spell iPhone, but I'll just leave that in there, the misspelling. No wonder what kind of phone that is. And now your agents are able to support this from one of 2 places. I'm away from my desk. I'm out on my mobile. I'm at lunch. I'm looking, oh, Sis just sent in this ticket. It's our director of operations. Let me jump on this one. So they actually can work on the ticket from here. So I will be able to look at this. I think this is the guest access. Oh, someone else is in there demoing right now, one of my other colleagues. So I'm able to look and see what's going on. And here's the one where I talked about the other iPhone or that. So I'm able to do some things here. I can actually lock it just simply with an emoji. So the agent can work out of chat. We know many teams, that's where they live, operations teams, those kinds of things. However, on the back end, we do have this ticket, and what it did was, so I'm just going to go over to it. We'll look at it, created the ticket, and it's figured out a few things here, like the location. Sometimes we do have another scenario where we'll actually look up and say, what is your device? And it'll put it in the ticket. So automation can layer in around this. So you have email, the portal, and chat right there out of the gate, ready to use, and easy to incorporate. It's more of planning out what channels are needed, which types of teams, what type of request.
the chat is integrated with the knowledge management database. Is it a single source or does it have an aggregator? Can I bring in my ServiceNow data also?
Longer term, yes, we are looking
So
at
it's one-to-one.
that's part of it's one-to-one. It's going to look at what is the knowledge here. Confluence, if you're looking to your Confluence site, Confluence has the ability to connect. I see, is it Microsoft's SharePoint, where I might, or Google, I see that one a lot. But being able to open up to other aggregators is something that we talked about with a team this next year that's on our radar. Yep.
For the first private period, how does the conversation continue with the person who's instructing help?
It'll happen in the portal. So I would go back to the portal. So they'll take the link to the portal. The idea is that I want to make it easy for them to find me, but I don't want this sensitive information going back in there. We just added that recently because we've come across the requirement. So it would just be through the configuration of it, what you're going to allow to go back out to the chat channel. Make it easy for them to reach me in the channel and then take them into the portal where they might have that more sensitive conversation.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So for sake of time, I'm going to go over to operations. And so we'll pivot over here. We're going to look at the IT side of things for operations teams. So I'm going to come back over here. We've created a project for an operations team that's dedicated. And now what's on the left-hand side, we call these practices. These are a way to say this team is focused on incident problems changes, whereas that other team, you only saw incidents and service requests. So you can easily configure what types of practices will they focus. Those are we have the core right now. We're looking at how that's expandable. We just recently added the new post-incident review capability that I'll talk about. So let's go through this. And I'm actually going to start with what causes outages, and that is someone's changed something. So a couple of things here in the IT world, and that is I'm going to do an IT change. And I could make it easy. I'm a DBA. I'm going to come in and do a standard change or normal changes maintenance. And I'm going to go ahead and I do this on a regular basis. So what we're doing here, and we actually followed a couple of customers that came from ServiceNow. ServiceNow has a lot of templates. What they loved was, I want to make this data-driven, easy to manage. They took inside of Insight, they put all of this is allowed for this configuration item or type, and you can do these maintenance actions. So as a DBA, as a sysadmin, I can easily come in and raise my change ticket because I know I got a change window coming up and I got to get it done. And I'm only going to be allowed to touch, and I'm going to try and get the right one, Oracle CRM. So what's allowed on Oracle CRM? Well, I'm going to do a backup add node. In there on the back end, that list may expand. I think the one customer I was reviewing, they had 140 in there and they were hoping to grow that. Government agency in Norway, I love this because I spent time with them in Barcelona. They came off a remedy. It was a part of a digital transformation of the benefits that are delivered to citizens in Norway. And they said, we're going to go on this journey. We're going to have a digital experience for all of our citizens. And so as they did that, they moved, they were software organizations. So software was driving. So the IT director said, all right, let's move. And one of the key things right now that slows us down is change management. The vast majority of every standard change, maintenance change, has to be touched by someone. And when they moved, they automated the review and approval, if it was low risk, of standard change. They automated 70% of their changes coming through their system. That was it. Just listening to this IT director and team talk about this and what it meant, that now they are now freed up to look at the more complex IT systems that they're managing instead of all of this other work. It has to happen. I have to track it. So that was a major shift for them. I'm seeing ITIL 4 no longer calls it change management. It is called change enablement. In the age of CI/CD and DevOps, the change world, and Gene Kim has someone on his group. He has someone that's now written about how he got rid of the cab in his organization. Now, he didn't get rid of it. What he did was he distributed the authority to review down to the service owner. There's probably a better authority to say, yeah, that's a change that looks good. Instead of having this centralized cab that may or may not know and understand it, I need you to review everything and it slows down. So that world is changing. And what we're seeing is a lot of these examples are the technology can support it. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and say that we're going to do this in the next couple hours, couple days. We do have something that is shipping soon. The freeze windows will be there. So you can do that with automation, but we'll actually be able to, so you then if you try and come inside of it, it's going to let you know. We have added automation to check for this. And I think I'm going to be inside the lead time, and I intentionally did that. So the whole idea on this is it's easy for me to raise a change maintenance. I get a notification saying your change window is open. Don't forget to update your notes. Done. No one had to touch the change, but if there's an outage in a couple of days, I know I'm going to come back and look at this person that did the node backup, and maybe they changed something there. So I know where to go and inspect. On the other side of this, if we go look at this change ticket, we'll see that it's actually awaiting implementation on the date. If we look at the change calendar, and I apologize, I didn't get a chance to inspect my data. Usually I'll set it up to where I have some conflicts. I don't know if that's the case. Yeah, so I don't think I'm going to find a conflict around this. Usually I set something up that I'll cause it to happen. If we look down in the automation, yeah, I'm definitely within the lead time, so we couldn't stop it. That's where the freeze windows will help. But all of the things I need to do, my tasks are here. I'll get notified when this is ready. And here's something that's happening, and this is something we just started to ship. We're using our AI ML. So Smarts is looking at saying, are there any conflicts and are there any ongoing incidents for this change on the application? We don't find any, or the service. So that's a change. Now let's go look at a more complex one, which is we would call a standard change. I'm sorry, a normal change. So this is like kicking off an IT project. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do a major upgrade to Oracle financials. Does that sound like a fun project? Yeah, someone's going to take like 6 months to do, but it's, I see these as I'm the technology owner. I'm going to raise this because this is a project I'm going to kick off. So, yep, there we go. Yes, that it could take some time, but hopefully not as cringeworthy as what we had over here for Oracle. And all right, so let me see. We'll just do online ordering or something like that. I'm going to go to billing because I've got some ongoing outages there, so I'm going to tie these in. I'm pulling data from here, so we'll definitely pull in Oracle that I saw earlier. So this is my application portfolio, just a scheme I have that we've populated with some examples we've seen from customer. Why is it high, critical, low? We can obviously recategorize this based on some things we find. I'm going to pick here because I want to cause a conflict, but usually this is going to take a couple months to plan, weeks to plan, whatever it is, but I'm going to choose inside this window so we can see it come up. And now risk. So every organization I've worked with, the risk model is different. And I'm back in my remedy days, we would take what was there out of the box and we would tailor it. What we have done, and we're adding some AI ML, is you can create a data-driven approach around your risk model because you may have other governance and compliance areas. So it might be 5 questions, it might be 2 questions. You might do a lookup to get something else. The idea on this is we use Insight. We have a practices schema that we created. We actually were inspired by a customer that did this. We've offered it back up to product, and we'll see where we go with it. But you could do this today. You put in your risk factor saying, nope, did not do that. And actually, yes, I got to do it during business hours. Can it easily roll back? No. And I'm going to say some. And so we'll go ahead and do this. And then there we use automation. We assess it and we say, all right, this is a high risk change. I'm going to go ahead and flag this one. A couple of things here, and I don't know if Kathy's added this here. We can now interact with Confluence. And so it told me my risk score, and I should see one more here. What I would normally do is send a page where I want you to do your change planning. Confluence has some really good templates now. We can actually pre-create the page, and I think we can link to this ticket. So automation can now interact with Confluence. So what it was before, hey, you attach your Word doc or your spreadsheet. No, I want you to put it in Confluence because we can collaborate there. And if we come over here, I'm just going to briefly review and we'll pivot over to incident. So here we see high risk change. If we come up here, this is the key remember I said the services layer we're creating? Here's where we see the services that unifies. I'm like, okay, billing service, you're changing that. It's a tier 1 service. That's a higher risk. We now see what it's related to. I can now look around and say, well, what else is going on out there at the, like, I'm going to come down to the application layer. We'll look at e-commerce. Maybe there's something here. Yeah, so there's a lot, including even some code changes. So over on the platform team, they're making some changes to the billing system. They're actually putting in some hot fixes. So I'm actually linking to some of the things going on in my software teams. I'm unifying teams in that work around the idea of service. I'm going to show you how service is used when we have an outage in just a few minutes, including what you already see here. There's an ongoing outage right now. It went and found that. I didn't have to do it. It automatically found that for me and said, hey, we got an incident going on out here. You may not want to do this, or just be aware of this, or it could go the other way. You have an outage going on. Here are the changes on this service, and you'll see that in just a second as well. So what you do for change management today, you could start to think about how I can streamline and bring change in and bring teams together. The last thing I want to show you is Bitbucket, and I'll just use our, yeah, please, question.
Yeah, can you roll back up a little? I thought I saw tier 1, tier 2 in here.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so you were saying that that tiered model is being sort of decoupled, or whatever you want to call it, and decommissioned in the future. But would this be like tasks for the?
No, great question. What I meant was in reference to the support groups. I mean, you think about support groups, I have level 1, level 2, level 3. Gartner found that those models are starting to they call it level Z support, meaning really I can bring in a special swarm. Swarming is kind of the new approach. The Service Management Consortium has written some great publications on swarming and strategies. This tier is related to what's the structure of the architecture you've created. Like this is the top business tier.
Okay.
It's basically the hierarchy of the service tier. I'm glad you asked about that. It was good clarification. Whereas we look at order processing, I think all of these are tier 1, payment processing, tier 1. So these are all tier 1 services, but I have some others where they're tier. If I lose this service, tier 3, it may not have the highest impact. Where we're building towards, and this is on our longer roadmap, we'll be able to look through this, especially on the DevOps side, and understand what's going on around these services.
Yeah.
So let's, for sake of time, I'll just mention this. I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to go right over to incident. In the change world, I'm connected up to Bitbucket, and I could do this with, I could actually do this with Jenkins, Circle CI. This was actually created over in Jenkins or in Bitbucket. It created the ticket. It's waiting for an authorization. I will not let this deployment move forward. I don't know if I'm still logged into Bitbucket. Let me come back over here. I've gated this change. Yeah, so this one is actually sitting here waiting for me to actually approve it. Okay, so I pushed my code. I won't go through, I usually show you all the creating the code, and it's associated with a Jira software ticket, but I can go on and work on something else. But it told me here in a message in here, and it looks a little bit different in Jenkins or whatever, but you connect up and say, I'm going to connect Jenkins in. Whenever you push something through the CI/CD pipeline, I want to create a ticket in Jira Service Management. And then what happens is when it creates that ticket, where's my ticket? My apologies, problem with having too many screens open. Okay, I'm going to come in here and authorize this. So if I just, oops, I got the Zoom bar here. Let me move the Zoom bar to the bottom. I'm just going to add my name. So these are the folks there. I'm just going to add myself real quick. I'm an admin. So we'll do that. There we go. Great. So I'm a part of the service owner group. It did a lookup based on which group is defined at the service level. So there's another object where it says, who's the on-call group? Who are the change approvers, the oversights, the service owners? We do a lookup and say, yep, you're a part of the approval. I reviewed it, looks great. And if I come back over here, we will find that this deployment is going to pick back up in a second, and it's going to proceed on to what's the next environment. Maybe it's going to go out to staging because it's going to soak there for a little while, and Ops Genie is going to kind of watch it for any alerts or outages. So you should see that move in a second. So that's the CI/CD gating, and the integration is fully there. And now this one's done. It's deployed. So this is a really exciting part of it. If you haven't had a chance to really look at how you would bring your dev and your teams together, this is another area that's natively there in the product. Now let's go to incident. We just caused a bunch of outages here. In fact, including if I go here, I've got a major outage going on right now around the billing system. I set this one up just before our session today. What we've done here is when the incident comes in, we'll automatically look up who are the responders. Now, I'm going to show you where the responders comes from. We have an on-call capability here. So if I come down to on-call, I'm just going to open another tab so I don't lose my screen here. We have the ability to look through and say, who is the on-call by service? So let's say I have a team that manages AWS within my organization. That's their expertise. Okay, great. Is this AWS related? Or someone that's running Oracle, on the Oracle applications. Great. I'm going to get them. I'm going to bring them in. So this on-call capability is a part of Opportunity that came over that's now natively here inside of Jira Service Management. So what that meant was when this incident arrived, we automatically brought in the network and platform team because they're the on-call. We also, Mitch Davis was assigned because he's the initial. We went through and we told you that, there's a major incident going on. Here are the incident run books. So if I'm the first on-call touching it, I can open up my run books inside of Confluence and I can say, okay, here's billing health. There's the architecture. Oh, that's right. There's that Splunk dashboard. I haven't been in here 30 days. There's that known error. And I might be the first person coming through that might actually recover that service first. The other part of this is we have also brought in the alerts. So we have 200 plus integrations. This incident could have been reported by an individual, or it very well could have come from one of the alerts. And you can have an alert trigger an incident inside of Jira Service Management. And then is it tier P1, a P3, you can assign to a team. You name and if you don't see the integration you want, you can get to those sources. There's a variety of different ways, some of the legacy systems that generate alerts that you want to consume. Now, once this is here, how do I swarm to it? I won't go through for sake of time. I can go over into Slack and I can go ahead and start collaborating around that incident because that's where we natively go. And anything that happens there, it comes right back into the timeline. So if I look at the timeline here, I don't know if it'll capture any of the ones. Yeah, I was in here a little bit earlier making some updates. So it will create the timeline for the incident as I'm collaborating in Slack. Or I want to start a video call in Zoom. And we do have a native video capability in Twilio because I want you to show me the Splunk files that I'm seeing for the incident. And we need a visual of it. You can do that as well. What we've done here is we've created incident swarming natively in the product in a way that fits your team and your workflow. Questions around incident management? Yes, sir.
In this alert, how do you connect to the next step?
Yeah.
One place.
Yep, great question. So let me go jump to one of the alerts that's in this one. So you have the ability. So this alert here came from, so on the back end, we consume alerts. And this interface is going to move over into JSM eventually. So I have the ability to do that. But let's say, which alert, what's your source of alert you're thinking of? Nagios? Okay, all right, let's do that. So I'll go into the team, I'll say platform development team. They currently support AWS, Datadog, and what's Zabbix. So let's add, so Nagios. There we go. So I'll add that one in. I'll go ahead and say, all right, what do I, actually they've updated this. This is nice. They've updated the UI on this. So now this is just the straightforward. What do I want? What do I want? Do I want to suppress notifications? And also, if you have additional mappings you want out of that alert source, you have access to whatever it's sending to you and the field pairs that you want to match up. There's 200 integrations in it. We've expanded a little bit. And then if you don't see, like I had a mainframe one come up recently, a customer was talking about, they're connecting and get alerts via the, I think it's email in one case. So definitely are able to do that. The really neat thing about this is I may only configure Nagios alerts because it's only this team that cares about it. Whereas everyone else, they're not going to be looking at Nagios. Or I can make Nagios available for everyone so everyone has access and can use those alerts. I'm glad you asked about that because I think that's this is the power of Opportunity behind the scenes that's powering the modern operations that we're able to provide with it. Okay, I'm going to get to wrapping up here because it's been a long time. I want to just highlight one thing, and instead of showing you, I want to just kind of talk through this because I don't have the best examples. They just reset our analytics environment. In addition to everything we see, and I just touched the tip of the iceberg, there's a lot more out there. We knew that dashboarding we've always had. We had basic reporting in Jira Service Management. But we didn't have the best reporting. And so what we've done, we're built on AWS architecture, is we created a data lake. And this data is your teams working in your environment. So you're in your shard, your environment. So all of your data is there. Software tickets, support teams. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put contextual insights on top of that. We already started getting to see a little bit. It's more in Jira software right now. We're getting some in JSM pretty soon, like the Ops Genie insights are moving over. And so we'll get some contextual insights right in my work. But below that, in product dashboards, we're going to ship some just right out of the gate. So incident, change, request, you'll get that. Now, here's the part that's going to be really powerful. You want your data to also include in there, you'll be able to do that. So here's an example. Here's modern operations for transactions for team dashboard, but we're putting together not only incidents, we're looking at deployment times. What do the deployment times look like with incidents or changes that they're working on? So you're able to put together data insights that we could never do before. The other one here is just an IT leader dashboard. How are we doing overall? That's that black box we put over the top of that for those knowledge workers. Now I can start to put that across. I have 10 teams working across different support projects. I want to bring that together for the type of work they're doing so I can look what's going on with HR and IT and finance. I can see what's going on in that type of support. And ultimately, and this is in the enterprise tier, and we're going to be layering in analytics across all of the tiers of our licenses of our product. But in enterprise, for large organizations where you have other data sources, we are opening up the ability for you to connect to those BI tools or those data warehouses so you can bring that data in and really now start to inform. I'm looking at, well, here's what my software team's doing, here's what my service teams are doing, and then here's this other data that I need in that story as well. So this is in early access right now. I don't know the GA timeframe. It's on the roadmap up there. I didn't forget, but it's in beta. Let me correct that. It's in beta, and we're close to going GA. Questions on anything that I've covered so far? I've covered a lot, so I appreciate you. I know we got a break coming up.
Question on the analytics.
Yes.
Is it the organization level or is it the site? Like if you're not in it.
Site level and enterprise, if I recall from, it's been a while, so I'd have to. Let me double check. I believe it's site level, and then obviously if you're like premium tier, it'll be for that site. Yeah, and they right now it's only going to be an enterprise, and then it's going to make its way back across the other tiers. We're just shipping right now an enterprise with it. Yeah, good question. I will confirm that as well. So I think the one thing, thinking back when we first talked about what Forrester said about looking at service management and unification of work, whether it's development teams with service teams or operations teams or logistics teams with service teams, we're very much committed to the Atlassian platform and what we're able to do. And that's a journey. It's one like, I'm going to chart this out for this team, and that's where we'll go. We'll learn from that in the next team. And so we're really excited where the future lies around this and the investment. We're just getting started here. We've come a long ways in this last 5 years. Mike and Scott, from all the way down, the founders, they are very much committed around being a platform for teams and where they work. And that can be deep in operations or on the business side of an organization. So with that, I know Highway 3, said it wrong. I want to say 53. I don't know why that is. Highway 3, you all, I think, have this resource. We can share it out afterwards. This is a phenomenal guide. What it does is we wrote it we looked at ITIL 4. We said, what are the areas, and let's give ideas on how do I adopt different practices. So it's a great resource to take a look at. Thank you. Other questions? Any questions? All right. Well, I'm around. I would love to chat with you. If you have any questions, please let me up. So thank you. And I think